Okay, cool. This is good. My name is Haixun Wang. I'm from Instacart. I'm going to talk about generative AI in e-commerce. I actually gave a very early version of this talk about the advances in e-commerce about 2 years ago, also at the KDD. But in the last 2 years, a lot of things happened. Large language models and generative AI are in full swing. So it's really a good time to revisit this topic. How many things have changed in e-commerce? In very brief summary, I think there are lots of good ideas, but it has been proven quite challenging to productionize these ideas. But let's take a look. Sorry, does not seem to. Is this button?
Yes. Okay, now.
All right, cool. The grocery industry is massive. If you compare early, e-commerce systems like Amazon selling books, this is much bigger than books and media, the entire grocery industry. And for Instacart delivering groceries, there's a lot of interesting advantages or opportunities we have. For example, we know what is the next time some customers are very likely to place another order of banana or other things. We can estimate from our data, how likely another order is coming. But there are also many challenges. For example, the biggest challenge for us is to figure out at any time in any store whether a particular item is available, right? We don't really have a lot of data, real-time data from our retailer partners. They don't tell us this real-time shelf information. Everything we need to estimate through our shoppers as they try to find the items in the store. So that's actually a very big challenge. And then, we have large language models, generative AI, which is promising to become a game changer for this industry and also for many other industries, right? But if you look at the e-commerce and look at all the, machine learning type of work we are doing, majority of these work is in the predictive ML domain. We're doing, classification, prediction, personalization, recommendation. All these systems have been sort of well developed or quite established. Generative AI can help, especially in the domain of content generation and conversation, like chatbot, right? So there are actually 3 things happening. One is how can we use generative AI to improve predictive ML? Because predictive ML require a lot of signals, and a lot of these signals can be generated by generative AI, by large language models through content creation, for example. And the second thing is generative AI is really good at content creation, conversation, and all these kind of things. And use these technologies, we can develop new customer experience in e-commerce. And lastly, just generative AI on its own, it can open up a lot of new opportunities, a totally new world for e-commerce. And I'm going to talk about these kind of things, call it vision or call it speculation in this talk. So here's a very brief agenda. I'll talk about a little bit the current status of e-commerce. Then I will focus on some major challenges. And then I will talk about what people have done currently, for example, at Instacart, to use generative AI in e-commerce. And then I will try to spend quite a little bit of time to talk about the future of e-commerce, what's coming with this new wave of technology. All right, what's the current status? So it has always been a challenge to understand, the intent of the customer. I'm showing 3 examples from 2019, 2021, 2023 of Amazon. If you search for red wine, $40, what you get from Amazon, right? I'm not picking on Amazon here because it's not like any other e-commerce systems doing any better when it comes to tail queries, right? So red wine is a head query, but if you put $40, into the query, it becomes a tail query. And everything here you see, it's kind of strange, right? Why these things come up. But you see some kind of things, a lot of products are red in color. That is actually because one red is a color. So it does not understand the query that much, but it captures some strange things like one red being a color, and all these products come up are red in certain extent, to certain extent, right? And people are not really satisfied with just these keyword or term-based search. More and more users, customers are looking for some kind of solutions. They are asking queries like insomnia, heartburn, or even how to get rid of raccoon, right? So they are trying to find solutions for their conditions and all these kind of things. As a matter of fact, you see the queries that contain the word how have been trending up on Google since 2014, right? So people are looking for solutions. But here, if you have a condition, if you have a situation, you directly use it in e-commerce search, like insomnia, you want to find solutions for that. The results are not very, very satisfactory, right? Usually it only gives you products that actually contain the word insomnia in the product name. But that's not really what you want, because there are just so many products can help with this situation that you have difficulty getting get to sleep, right? So for example, lavender or even Epsom salt and all these kind of things, it really, really requires the e-commerce systems to have a huge product knowledge graph, right? The product knowledge graph will serve the purpose of connecting a situation, a condition with the products that can address those kind of conditions. But creating such a product knowledge graph is usually prohibitively expensive. It's like boiling the ocean because the domain is just too big, right? And there's a lot of knowledge on the web that can be potentially very, very useful for e-commerce. So here, when it comes to food and grocery and cuisine and all these kind of things, there's a lot of massive amount of information and knowledge on the web, like 10 healthy snacks for kids, or how to cook a steak or something like that. You would like to have all this knowledge or information in your product knowledge graph so that you can actually recommend these kind of things to customers who have the intent. But how do you put all these information together, right? So this is basically the domain of information data integration. You're looking at integrating data, of very variety of types. It could be structured data, like your catalog or the transaction data, right? And it could be semi-structured, taxonomies, ontologies, and it could be totally unstructured data, like I mentioned, these web pages, right? So, but that's not the end of it. The last part is how do you present all this information, content to the customer? This screenshot come from Google's demo of Gemini. So what they are trying to show is through a lot of different channels, like chatting and all these kind of things, or keyword search. Basically, this is the presentation to satisfy the customer's intent of throwing a birthday party for his daughter, right? So everything here, the images, the content is generated automatically by Gemini, right? But of course, Google is not an e-commerce system. All these kind of things do not, naturally map to products. But as an e-commerce system, we would really love to do that, to be able to dynamically create some kind of a presentation, and it's dynamic because based on the query, the intent, the context, the customer, and also connect everything to the product. That's what we really want to have. But of course, it's quite challenging. So exactly what are the challenges? We can summarize them, into these three. The first one is to be able to understand the user intent, to understand what they really want, keywords or whatever, through chatbot or things like that. And we also need to have the content to address those kind of intent. Not understanding it is not enough if you don't have the corresponding materials that can be used to address the condition or the situation the customer has. And then you have to present it in the right way, right? To give the users a very, very complete picture, especially the users have very, high-level general, intent, like Mother's Day gift or kids' birthday party. It's not really very, very exact product intent, but it is like a broad intention. So how do you communicate with the user to give them a big picture, allow them to explore, and allow them to understand what are the things that are available to them? So this customization of the presentation is also really, really important. The challenges we are dealing with, the existing e-commerce search and the technology stack, right? So the first step is actually query understanding. This is really, really quite, how do I put it, like complicated, because usually it takes more than a dozen models, machine learning models, to try to understand a query, right? So you need to segment them, and for each one of them, you need to map them to the right semantics, right? And then you need to worry about the spelling correction, language detection, and all these kind of things, and also, query rewriting. It can easily take more than a dozen machine learning models, and you need to develop them, maintain them, and improve them, and ensure they work together really, really nicely. So it's not an easy task. And then I mentioned about the content integration. But before you integrate all these different type of content, you still need to get this kind of information from somewhere, usually through information extraction, right? But depending on the format of the data, all these kind of things, information extraction is also very cumbersome, and also does not really scale very well. So this is another challenge. And everybody knows personalization, customization is hugely important for e-commerce, so that we try to understand the preferences of the users, right? So currently, how do we do it? So this is the sort of the state-of-the-art so-called two-tower models. On the one hand, you have the user representation. On the right hand, you have the product representation, and somehow you want to make them, you want to match them, right? And this is trained through the user engagement data. This person has purchased this item before, so somehow with a lot of these kind of data, you put the users and the products into the same embedding space. That's how you do the user product matching or affinity matching, right? But it's still quite far away from what we want to have here, which is a customized. Everything is putting together. You have chat, you have keyword search, you have content, you have the right way to presenting these content. So how do we get there is still a very, very big task for e-commerce. But anyway, so we have these challenges, which is understanding the intent and creating the content and customize the interface. And we have a lot of APIs or machine learning models, algorithms that can contribute to all of this. How do we make them talk to each other? How do we integrate all these things together? So one of the solutions, especially in the age of generative AI, may be like, how about we sort of enable every component to communicate in natural language, instead of trying to create a lot of different machine learning models to solve every particular component of the problem. Let's converge the data or consolidate data into the same format, maybe natural language, and use the large language model to solve some of these problems, right? So that is sort of like one of the directions or the guidelines for all these work involved natural large language models for e-commerce. So we have different types of information like text, which may come from the user input, and also images. We can directly understand images in certain like a handwritten shopping list and all these kind of things. And later on, even audio and video, and we can all put them through the large language models or generative AI models. And the generative AI models understand these kind of multimodal communication, and will output all these kind of presentation or content, and so that everything is together, right? And here's just one example. As I mentioned previously, the current approach is like we have a stack of a dozen or more than a dozen, machine learning models trying to understand our query, right? But now we can actually just ask a large language model, like I have a query, and try to help me understand this query, like what are the semantics, what is the semantics, what are the components and everything. It actually does an amazing job in understanding those queries that usually only contain 2 or 3 words, right? But there's a challenge here, which is, typically in e-commerce search or in search, there's a latency allowance. You are only allowed maybe 200 milliseconds of all the way to maybe 500 milliseconds, that's the limit, to handle a particular query, right? But typically, the latency, through a large language model is much, much bigger than that. So how do we deal with that? There are lots of new advancements in this area that can help us deal with this big challenge. One is like large language models are actually getting smaller and smaller. And the second is like, there are new technologies that enables you to, maybe host or serve large language model in a more efficient way. And very, very recently, for example, Cloud, Anthropic started supporting this caching, right? So, for example, if you ask large language model to understand a query, you give it like maybe a very long instruction. How do you like it to understand the query? But the payload of the query is just 2 or 3 words, right? So the majority of the time, the large language model, when it is asked to interpret a query, it is try to understand the instruction, right? So if this part can be cached, then the latency will drop quite significantly, right? So of course there's also reliability issues and all these kind of things, but I believe like with the continuous progress in the large language model foundations, these things can be solved. And then the second task is like how do we unify heterogeneous data to text, right? We have structured, semi-structured, and unstructured data, and traditionally we deal with them in a very, very different ways, and especially for semi-structured and structured data, usually the existing algorithms cannot really scale at all. And we can really put them all together, by transforming them into natural language. So here is like we have a structured data. Think about the the left column, the picture on the left side is a record in your in the catalog database, right? So you have a few fields and all these kind of things. You can actually ask a large language model to convert it into a text. You can ask it to convert to text in multiple different ways, right? And then imagine you can do that for every record in your catalog database, so everything becomes natural language. You can do the same thing for the semi-structured data, right? And for unstructured data, it's already natural language, but you still need to do one thing, which is entity linking. You want to find the mention of the products in those natural language texts in those documents, right? So if after you have done that, or have done everything like this, then no matter whether it is structured data or semi-structured data or unstructured data, everything becomes a natural language, but with the product embedded in the natural language, right? And then the other thing is the personalization. As I mentioned, currently you have these two-tower models, and trying to map people, users, and the products into the same embedding space, right? But one of the difficulties, like, it's hard to explain when there's some kind of situation, like, for example, why milk chocolate always rank high in my results, but dark chocolate is nowhere to be found for this person who happens to really love dark chocolate and hate milk chocolate. But somehow in his results, milk chocolate always rank high, right? And it's very hard to debug this kind of situation if you have these two-tower models or high-dimensional embeddings and things like that. And another thing is, like, it's very difficult to incorporate additional knowledge into this personalization system. Like, for example, someone is a health enthusiast or someone is 3 months pregnant. How do you combine this additional information with this personalization system? It's very difficult. What we have done is, like, we try to use explicit personas to represent each of the customers. So what we do is we try to predefine about 100 personas, like labels, like here, the bargain hunter, the brand loyalist, and all these kind of things. We have about 100 of them. And then we send the customer, transaction history, their previous purchases, to the large language model and ask the large language model to map this particular person, each of these particular customers, to some of those personas, right? And then we can use these personas to represent the customer. Apparently, there's a lot of benefit because these personas, these labels, we as humans can understand them without any problem, and the large language models can understand them. And once large language model can understand them, they can basically connect these labels to the vast amount of word knowledge in the large language model. Everything gets connected, and it's also very easy to incorporate new information. Like, okay, someone is let's say 3 months pregnant, and everything can very, very naturally integrated into the request to large language models. And we actually implemented it and we put it to work, and it shows that it actually improved these recommendations quite significantly just because it understands those kind of labels. Here, there's another challenge, which is about throughput. Like, you have millions and millions of customers, and each one of them has a very, very long history of purchase. And you want to send everything to the large language model and ask it to map to those personas, and you want to do it regularly, right? That is a lot of traffic, a lot of work. So we have to develop some sampling algorithm, smart ways of, clustering those customers so that we don't send repeated requests to the large language model to do this kind of mapping. But that's what we do. And here is sort of the architecture. We have implemented some of some components, but not all of them. So it's sort of like on the left-hand side, you convert these user queries, the personas, the context, put them together through natural language into a understandable intent. Right. On the right-hand side, it's basically your data. It's also, through this mechanism, sometimes called generative information retrieval, right? So you have these two things together. To a certain extent, also looks like a two-tower model, but you incorporate all these information into the same natural language presentation and process them. And this is the high-level summary. So we are going from the classic information retrieval to the large language model-powered information retrieval. The something in the middle, which is called model-based IR, it is something presented or introduced by Google. Google has a paper called Rethinking Search, but they are talking about web search instead of e-commerce search. And in that visionary paper, they talk about just one model. Everything is just one model. But here in the e-commerce, it's actually easier than web search because our domain, the e-commerce domain, is much smaller than the web search domain. But we still need to have the database of transactions and the database of catalog, and that's how we envision our large language model-powered information retrieval. And I want to spend some time to talk about the future of e-commerce, given what we have seen in the space of large language model and generative AI. The question is, what is coming, and what can we do about it? So a lot of this kind of thing, is still like a very early stage, like a speculation, or we're just trying to conceive, like with all these technologies, to how much extent the e-commerce industry will be sort of disrupted, right? There are quite a few things, and for example, there's a big crave for the new experience. We want a very, very different, e-commerce experience, like, for example, TikTok style of engagement, rather than, just search for something, you get a list of products. And there's another thing I want to very briefly mention, which is the biggest difference, like the physical versus digital shopping, right? Is there a possibility of fusing these two? I'm not going to dive deeper into it, but this is something to think about. I want to spend a little bit more time about agents, the autonomous agents that are coming, and what kind of impact they are likely to make in the e-commerce domain. And also about customized products, whether generative AI can help us to create more and more interesting products, right? So the new experience, I don't want to spend too much time on it, but things are changing. Like, first from the experience, right? We are more accustomed to this 10 blue links, but this is really quite dull, especially when it comes to grocery shopping. You go to the grocery store, you see all these food and everything, which really makes a very different experience from if you search Apple, you see all different kind of apples on in the e-commerce app. But there are many, many other things like serendipity, and the lifestyles and all these kind of things. The new generation of people really requires something quite different from the previous generations. And the other thing is like the fusion of physical and digital shopping. A lot of have been discussed, on this topic, and people are hoping maybe drone delivery can help address some of those situations. Like, no matter what, like even if a piece of clothes or whatever, if you can get it through drone delivery in the next 15 minutes, is there still a very big difference from shopping in the store. But still, there may be, right? So there was a saying I heard about it, like we humans are dancing animals. What does that mean? So there's this very, very famous writer, Kurt Vonnegut, and he put together this conversation with his wife when he decided to make a trip to the local store for a single envelope. He wants to buy a single envelope, and she said, "Okay, you are not poor man, why don't you online order 100 envelopes?" And he said, pretend not to hear her and go out to get an envelope because I'm going to have the hell of good time in the process of buying one envelope, right? So people just want to go out and to do the shopping by themselves. To be honest, it's a biggest problem for Instacart. They just want to go to the grocery store by themselves instead of shopping, for groceries online. But this is the reality, right? So it is up to the technology, although we don't know exactly what kind of technology that can really create this immersive experience for our customers, even better than shopping physically in the store. But it's a very interesting problem. Agents is actually more real. And it might come sooner than we expect. So first of all, a lot of e-commerce systems have started to deploy AI shopping assistants, including voice shopping. It's nice to have because it provides a lot of convenience, and more importantly, for example, for Instacart, it also supports underserved customers, right? Customers who are not that used to, shopping online, or they have trouble, using their app, or all these kind of, quite a lot of people in that kind of domain. So, through voice shopping, they might be able to get the service. And it's actually quite practical for grocery shopping than for other types of shopping, because when you buy things like you buy over and over again, like bananas. You don't care about comparing this banana with that banana and all things like that. Banana is just a banana. So, it's easy to, get through your intent through voice shopping than buying something else, like a digital camera or something like that, right? But the really interesting thing is the autonomous agents. What does that mean? It means like those agents shop on your behalf without you being part of this conversation of this process. Imagine you give it a shopping list and it does all the shopping for you, right? Because, for example, in my family, we do a lot of grocery shopping online, but my wife does not like, getting to the Instacart interface and picking items. So I'm the one operating on the Instacart interface, but I get all the instruction from her, like what to buy, right? So to a certain extent, I'm a customer AI agent for my wife, and I really love to lose my job to AI. If the customer AI agents can do all the job for us. And then the second step is like e-commerce AI agents. It's not just like a customer AI agents is acting on behalf of our customers, but we also want to have e-commerce AI agents that act on behalf of the e-commerce, right? And you can imagine these two agents will be able to talk to each other and to negotiate and things like that. And everything will really depends on the deeper understanding of user preferences. This seems all nice, but it actually is very, very disruptive because if you think about the foundations of online businesses, there are two of them. One is attention. So we have the attention economics. People spend very, very long hours every day on consumer tech and media, but we also have very, very short attention span. That is why the first three slots of the search results are so much more important than the rest of them, and all the advertisers try very hard to bid on these three slots. all because we humans have a very, very short attention span, right? And so that's why ads, search, marketing, they use human psychology to monetize attention. But if, agents, AI agents are doing the shopping, then none of these matter. None of these technology like focusing on human psychologists matter anymore. And the other thing is the loyalty, right? So Instacart, on Instacart there are dozens and dozens of grocery stores, but most customers they just go to one particular grocery store. They don't have time compare prices of 10 different grocery stores and try before they place an order, right? But imagine later on if you use AI agents, it doesn't matter. They can do all these kind of labor, try to find the best deal for you, right? So that's another disruption. So basically, currently, companies invest very, very heavily in acquiring and retaining customers, and later on, it will become how do you acquire and retain those AI agents that is doing the shopping on your site, right? So for all these autonomous agents, like, first of all, for the first stage, maybe the AI agents will shop on the e-commerce website, which currently are designed for humans, but ads, marketing, search, ranking algorithm no longer make much sense. And the second, when e-commerce AI agents also come into play, then, you can imagine these two types of agents will negotiate each other, maybe using game theory to figure out how to maximize customer satisfaction and economic profit, right? And then, we are so not ready in the understanding user preferences in personalization. That's something we need to change we need to invest more to make it work. So how do e-commerce companies win in the world of intelligent agents? There are quite a few things we need to do, starting from, maybe we need to develop a new strategy for ads, all the way to, the personalization strategy. There are quite a few things in between, but maybe I'll just talk about the ads strategy. So previously, advertisers auction, place bids on the top 3 slots, right? Now we have agents. That does not matter anymore. So what difference it might bring? A lot of opinions, but one common theme was that maybe we'll witness the rise of many smaller manufacturers or emerging brands because at this point, they don't even have a chance to be shown to the customer, whether it's in the physical store or in the digital store. They just don't have a chance. All these big players monopolize those top slots, whether it's in the physical store on the shelf or in the digital store in the search results, right? And then a much larger product selections may become available to our customers, and then e-commerce system may come up with new ways to monetize in this new situation, right? Maybe, for example, the inclusion, whether your products need to be included in the, I don't know, top 20, top 200 results or something like that as a selectivity. And the other thing is the personalization. So we have been working on personalization for so many years, but the reality is still quite miserable, quite primitive. Like these 2 articles were from the end of last year, 2023, and we all know Spotify is like a forerunner in the space of personalization. They really try to figure out, through social network and all these kind of things, what are the things, what are the songs they want to recommend to each user. They are really good in that. But, there's still a lot of criticism. People are saying, like, every tech company is crunching my data. All the results tell us is how dull it is to reduce human experience to numbers. So basically, they are the criticism is like, these technologies, they don't understand users at all, right? Which is true. And in our case, we already know, simply observing how customers shop, as e-commerce does now, isn't enough. Because we only know what they like, we don't know what they don't like, right? So a customer who is buying dark chocolate over and over again, we don't know whether they also might like milk chocolate or they actually hate milk chocolate. We just don't know. So what are the potential solutions? Number one is maybe we can actively engage and communicate with customers. This has become possible because we have large language models, we have chatbots, and we can use a large language model to look at every person and come up with what are the top 3 things I want to know about this customer. And then using chatbot, we can subtly ask these questions to the customer while he's doing the shopping, right? Without being very, very intrusive. So through this kind of more active engagement and communication, we might be able to understand the customer better. But the other thing is we might want to be more aggressive in observing those customers, right? This reminds me of this life logging, initiative, which started about 10 years ago, right? That initiative is about, you wear some device on you, like a voice and video devices trying to record everything about your life, right? And one of the slogans at that time was tracking everything from heartbeats to heartbreak. Really, if you can do this, if Spotify has this kind of information, I think they would love to have it because all these emotion and all these kind of experience are very, very important for companies like Spotify to recommend songs to their customers, right? It can also play a significant role for any e-commerce, including grocery shopping. But with that, it also comes with some kind of challenges of concerns like our affinity to products. Our affinity to products are increasingly no longer our own, but rather are manipulated by the algorithms, right? So there's a lot of ethics to think about for the e-commerce business, if we ever get to that, if we ever get to understand, very, very, granular customer preferences. And before I conclude, I just want to talk about one more thing, which is personalized products or customized products. When it comes to customized products, this is what you get at this moment. Like you can put a logo on a cap or your initiative or a name on some kind of products. And most recently, you can try to ask a large language model to come up with a customized recipe, right? That is how what is customized products right now at this moment. It's very, very limited, right? But like we are selling groceries online. Groceries are basically ingredients to make some dishes or other food and everything. But you can think of every product as an ingredient for some new products. And that maybe generative AI can help you design this new product, right? So on the right-hand side, I'm showing this interesting company called the Material Bank. What it does is it supports those designers, architects, and product managers. And if you have some ideas, they will ship you all these sample materials for free. And then you can innovate and you can create your new product and in all kinds of things, like furnitures and all that type of thing. Currently, this kind of new design is created by these humans, these designers, these architects themselves. But you can imagine you can use generative AI to generate those new products for you, right? Just like what AI for science have done in the domain, for example, drug discovery. Creating antibiotics, creating proteins that can target some kind of diseases. It's all about search in a huge space for something that actually satisfy some very, very tough constraints, right? And the same methodologies can be used, for example, for personalized food, right? So we have all different kinds of ingredients, nutrition categories, and you have your personal goals of whatever. And how do we put these things together to create new superfood that can satisfy all these constraints, but also one of them is like it has to taste nice, right? So these are all the possibilities maybe generative AI can bring in the next few years. All right, so this is the conclusion. I think generative AI is renovating the existing system of e-commerce, getting it better and better. And the intelligent agents, I think they are coming, and they probably will introduce some disruptions to the current business. And no matter what, for the existing e-commerce or for the e-commerce in the future, understanding our customers is still the biggest challenge. And lastly, I hope like this generative products could be like a new area that can create a lot of new business for all of us. Thank you.